Hey everyone! In today's episode, we talked to Theresa Reed, aka the Tarot Lady. She's the author of several books, including The Cards You're Dealt, How to Deal When Life Gets Real, Tarot for Kids, and Astrology for Real Life, just to name a few. She also has a tarot coloring book, because she's amazing. So let's get to it. I'm your host, Lauren.
And I'm Frank.
We are a married couple learning how to develop our own intuition, and this is episode 26 of Clairvoyaging. Wayfeather Media presents Clairvoyaging.
What's going on,
We're
folks?
on a ship.
We're on a ship?
Voyaging
Oh, man.
through the clairs.
Listeners, welcome to another uncomfortable introduction by Frank and Lauren.
Usually just Lauren.
We'll figure this out. No, we won't.
No, we'll never figure it out.
What's going on today?
Well, a lot.
Well, hit me.
Okay.
Nope, not
I
like that.
punched him.
She did.
Yeah, we have a new review.
Hey.
Lochran wrote, consistently great. One of the things I love about this podcast is that they are starting from scratch and they don't take themselves seriously. That's true.
Yep.
That being said, there are actual things that go bump in the night that are being revealed in modern times. Humanity is moving forward and discovering that they are really spirit beings having a human experience. This is an excellent podcast. Oh.
And here.
Lochran, thank you.
Thanks, Lochran.
We don't take ourselves seriously. That's part of it, I guess, right?
It is part of it. You know what? Everyone takes themselves too seriously.
We're not experts here.
No.
We're learning. Come along with us.
Thank you for learning with us. And Lochran, thank you for the kind words. That's awesome.
Lochran, send us an email, clairvoyagingpodcast@gmail.com, so that you can get a promo pack. We love reviews and we are rewarding people for them so that our show can grow. If you write a review on Apple Podcasts, or if you even just share something about clairvoyaging on social media, send us a screenshot and your mailing address, and we will send you a promo pack.
The goods.
Yeah. Some of our listeners are reaping the benefits. So be like them, get a hat and a magnet, and thank you.
If you want, no pressure.
No pressure, but if you want to represent.
Rep.
Rep. Hey, Frank, guess what else?
What?
We got a coffee. We got a few coffees.
Did we now?
Yeah. From Mary. Thank you, Mary.
Mary.
You're helping support our little show.
Thanks, Mary.
We're so appreciative. If you want to be like Mary, go to buymeacoffee.com/clairvoyaging.
I think everyone should be a little bit more like Mary.
Yeah. Okay. In big news.
Guys, we have an announcement.
Big news.
Listen, my dudes, we've talked to and learned from a lot of intuitive people. And along the way, I realized that I needed to get more organized and efficient with my own personal self-reflection. So I made a thing.
Yes, you did.
With spiritual minimalism in mind, I created the Clairvoyaging Alignment Journal. So it's kind of like a self-help journal. And the point of it is to assist you with your own self-discovery using 4 key strategies. It's gratitude, personal tenets, a development focus based on chakra work, and then a little bit of space to write down any reflections you have from a meditation that's combined with a sound therapy. So personally, I've been using the system for months, and I realized at some point, wait, I can make this a journal and actually share it with everybody.
It's so cool. It's really great.
It's a gorgeous, rich yellow color. It's a very cool journal. I like holding it.
It feels nice.
It's a nice feeling to hold this thing. I've never made a real tangible thing, so I'm very excited about this. It currently is available through Amazon, but there's kind of a long shipping hold on that. If you want them faster, you can pre-order right now through our website. And once we get it, we'll send it to you right away, but we'll include a magnet. And I mean, if you want, we'll sign the copy.
Sign it.
Do you want that?
Yeah.
And full disclosure, I mean, I don't want to give any spoilers, but this might be one of multiple journals we're making.
What?
It might even be a set of 3 and include everything you need.
Everything you need.
And now I sip coffee to emphasize the point.
Okay.
Go to our website, check it out, www.clairvoyaging.com.
Pre-order today.
Dig into yourself, dig into the journal.
That's exciting. I love it. I'm very proud of you, Frank.
Thank you.
Are you proud of you?
I am proud of me. And thank you for your love and support.
Yeah. Well, guys, today, Theresa Reed.
Theresa Reed.
So as we explained in the beginning, she is amazing. She has been doing tarot and astrology for years. She wrote the book on it. No, she wrote several books on it.
She wrote the books on it.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like Theresa, she's got a very no bull attitude about all of it.
Yeah.
She was very fun. You'll like her. It's going to come through. You're going to like this one.
Yes. So please enjoy Theresa Reed, the Tarot Lady. So Theresa Reed, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
We're happy to have you here. Can you just tell us a bit about yourself and what brought you into tarot and astrology? Because I know you've been doing it for a long time.
I have. I've been doing it for a very long time. I actually came to astrology before I came to tarot. And I really had a couple things that were very fortunate. I grew up in a household where my mother and grandmother were very psychic and superstitious. So anything like tarot or astrology would not be weird per se. They weren't into any of that, but that was really humming in the background. So I came to astrology when I was in high school through a friend's mother, and she was an astrologer and she did my chart. And it made a lot more sense to me than a lot of the things that my parents and teachers were telling me at the time, because most teenagers, what are we doing? We're trying to figure out who we are.
Yeah.
And astrology was like, okay, well, this is giving me some answers. So I began pursuing it real seriously immediately. And I'm one of those people, when I'm into something, I'm into it. And it was on one of those rare, weird occasions when we were at the mall. I grew up in a rural area, by the way, so the mall was an excursion. And we were at the mall, and so, of course, I was at the bookstores because that's where I spent my money, books and records. That was it.
Yeah.
And so I was at the bookstore, and I went to the metaphysical section trying to find the book that my girlfriend's mother used for interpretations. And I was in there, and I spotted a tarot deck. And I had seen tarot decks in the movies, so I thought, well, I'm going to bring this home. It was just completely on a whim. And by the way, they didn't have that astrology book I was looking for. So I came home and I unwrapped the deck and I was immediately fascinated. I was fascinated with the images, the little book that it came with. And I thought, I need to figure out my future. I need this thing. And the funny thing is, by the way, many, many years later, I wasn't able to ever find those books, and my girlfriend's mother passed, and I inherited the books.
Oh.
She gave them to me because her daughter wasn't into it. Yeah. I was into it. So I did get her books, and they're wrapped up in plastic, and they are one of my most prized possessions.
I mean, that's kind of the coolest way to obtain any kind of book.
Yeah, that's so sweet.
Yes. Yeah, and so the tarot deck that I used at the time was long gone. I mean, that thing got destroyed. And, it was a challenging deck to work with, the Marseilles deck. And I think a couple months later, I actually was back at that mall and I saw a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And so I got that. And the Rider-Waite-Smith deck really sang to me.
Yeah. Because
I'm a very visual person. And I've had a tarot deck in my hands ever since that time. And that's been over 40 years I've been reading tarot.
Oh, my gosh.
Long time.
Wow.
I never thought it would be a career, though. I'm going to tell you that. I mean, nobody grows up thinking, I want to be a professional tarot reader. I didn't even think of such a thing at the time. I really did. So that was kind of weird how that happened.
Yeah. Do you still use the Rider-Waite?
I use the Rider-Waite is always my workhorse deck. Like if I'm working with somebody, the reason why I use that deck is because it's universally recognized. Most people, they understand those images. However, I work with an updated version. I work with the Wiser Tarot because it's more, it's got more representation. And I think that's really important because, I mean, not everybody who sits at the tarot table looks
European.
Right? So that's the only thing that I changed, but I tend to use that. But for my personal use, I will work with the Baroque Bohemian Cats Tarot because that's my favorite deck.
That's fun. That's fun. So the Wiser deck is like the Rider-Waite. It just has like people of color in it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. We need
the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Yeah, the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, it's very Eurocentric. And I mean, if you look here at the Wiser Tarot, plus I like also the how they use like the watercolors in the background, and it's color coordinated, which also makes this deck really cool because, for example, here's a bunch of wands and they all have that kind of orangey background. So when you lay it out, you can spot the patterns right away.
Oh, I like that.
And I love that.
That's pretty.
Mm-hmm.
You're making me spend money already.
Uh-oh.
Whoops.
So how much of your time is spent doing tarot versus doing astrology?
It's 50-50.
Is it?
I'm a typical Gemini. I tend to do two things at the same time.
Okay.
And so I dedicate a lot of time to both. I mean, for me, they're both useful. Now, I no longer read for the public. So I write about tarot, I write about astrology, I write about them both. And if I'm doing anything for myself, for example, I look at astrology every single day. I want to know where the moon is. I want to know if there's any kind of funky aspects. I use astrology for business. It is amazing for business. I never do anything without consulting the planner, so I make sure my timing is on my side. So I'll do that, and then I love to pull a card for the day, and the card for the day helps me also to set my tone for the day, and I really love doing that for myself. Now, I also have a Patreon account, and so for my Patreon people, every single day they get a card for the day, telling them, hey, here's what you need to pay attention to. But also I put an astrological forecast on there. So again, they have all the information that they need too, so they can navigate their day and know what's up, because I'm a firm believer that when you are aware of the current or the energy around you, you can show up more present and you can make better decisions. And I would rather know what's happening, even if it's something I don't like, because then at least I have choice. Now I know how to manage. And so I look at both tarot and astrology as tools for divination, but also tools to help you to become a lot more conscious.
Is there a specific question that you ask each day? Is it just like, what do I need to know today? Or
just what do I need to know about today?
Yeah.
Now, sometimes I'll do readings for myself if I got some big questions about life. Like last year, our family was going through some really heavy stuff. I swear I have never done so many tarot readings in my life for myself.
Really?
I mean, just to try to like manage the situation required a lot more awareness. I could not sleepwalk through the situation.
Yeah.
So I was doing all these tarot readings. I'm like, oh my God, I just got to get through this damn year. And we got through the year and the tarot readings were very helpful because it, again, allowed me to see, okay, let's check in with how I'm doing, body, mind, spirit spread, et cetera, just so I can cope and move through the situations that were happening last year.
Wow.
So we've noticed that everyone uses tarot in a different way, or it sparks something different for them. For example, we just spoke to someone recently who will start reading tarot for people, and then their mediumship kind of pops in when they're not fully paying attention to that. Dr. Elliot Adam claims to not have any type of like intuition that he's tapping into. I think he's wrong, because I think he's and he's not even paying attention to how intuitive he is. But he's saying he's just reading the cards. How does this work for you?
So for me, I consider myself an intuitive reader. Absolutely. Remember, like I said earlier, I grew up in a household with a psychic mother, psychic grandmother. I mean, in our household, all those superstitions, all those intuitions, all those things were honored. So I've always had a very keen sense of instinct, intuition, whatever you want to call it. And I remember that when I was a kid, it kind of set me apart because other kids weren't like that.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't trust it. If I had a funny feeling about something, I paid attention to it. And it's something that's always served me really well. I like to say I have really uncanny instincts, but that intuition is really it's just simply a muscle. You just have to exercise it. Anybody can develop it. They can. So when I read tarot or astrology for that matter, the tarot cards all have their traditional meanings. There are spreads that have their traditional structures. The deck has a traditional structure. There is absolutely a foundation. And I never ignore that. I believe we do need to know what those meanings are, because then your intuition can do its job. And if I mean, sometimes you'll meet these readers that will tell people, just throw away the little white book, don't worry about it, just read whatever you see. And I think that does a disservice to the art of tarot. I think the structure needs to be honored. So I love the structure and I use it but it's more like a springboard for my intuition. And one of the ways I like to describe it is like this. The structure is kind of like the foundation or structure in a house. You need a structure. You need a solid foundation to build your house on. Otherwise, the house is going to fall apart. Your intuition is the interior designer that comes along and makes everything beautiful. So for me, I will lay out the cards. I look at, okay, what are the patterns here? What am I seeing? What does this mean? And then my intuition just kicks in and strings it together to tell what that means for that particular client. And the other thing I will say about intuitive readers, and this is where it gets kind of really interesting. I think everybody does use their intuition when they're reading tarot. I do.
Yeah.
Some people, like you said, just don't acknowledge it because you have to. I mean, if I had cards in the same spread, in the same position for you, Frank, and the exact same cards in the exact same position, for Lauren, my intuition, though, is going to tell two very different stories.
Right.
That's where the intuition kicks in. Even like there's a book called The Eagle and the Lark, which is an astrology book by Bernadette Brady. Hope I got that last name right. I always get these names goofed up. There's so many of us out there. And that book also speaks about the fact that you need your astrological structure. You have to understand all the different parts about astrology. And then your intuition also has to figure out, well, what does it mean? I like to say astrology is often theory. We have theories about what this means for you, theories about what this means for the world right now. And then later on, we can look back and be like, oh, got it. That's how that actually panned out. So with both tarot and astrology, structure is essential, and intuition really makes it sing.
I mean, what do you say to people who say things like, "Oh, you're so into astrology, like it's so generic, like anybody can take something out of that"? Because, well, I'll let you speak towards that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't care what people say. I'm not here to convert anybody.
Yeah.
I'm always the firm believer. Look, if you're not into it, you're not into it. If you think it's bogus, that's fine. I think sports are bogus, so therefore I never watch sports on television.
Oh my God, me too. I also, can we talk about that for a second? I want to like sports. I'll watch it, but
Frank's always just like, I don't care.
I played. Yeah. Anyway, continue.
I mean, I don't care. I grew up with brothers who watch it. I always remember thinking, when I get out of this house, there will be no sports on my television.
Yeah. Same.
And so, I don't believe, it's not that I don't believe in it. I'm not interested. I don't get it. I don't want to get it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people who feel that same way about tarot and astrology.
Sure.
And you know what? I'm not going to judge that. I'm not going to try to convince you or say, well, here's why it's real. Either you're into it or you're not.
Yeah.
It's like either you're into polka music or punk rock music, or maybe both. That's good too. It's up to the person. And I see a lot of readers, and this might be also because I'm, about to be a senior citizen. I see a lot of readers out there on social media just trying to defend it and explain it and trying to win people over. And I'm like, why are you bothering?
Yeah.
If they're not into it, they're not into it. Leave it be. So for me, if you don't like it, I'm like, cool, that's fine. I may not like something you're into. Leave it alone.
Yeah. I just think for me, there's a little bit of frustration sometimes because I'm like, I like tarot, you like sports. But also, like, Mike Trout's not going to tell you how your day is going to go. So it's kind of like,
right.
Just seems like there's more to not liking tarot. It's like, come on, man, this is only going to help you.
Yeah, but you know what? Some people have issues about it because, first of all, it may be because of their religion. It may be because, whatever reason. And like I said, for me, it's like, I just don't feel like convincing anybody. It seemed like back in the day, I used to get sometimes skeptics in my office. They are such a drag.
It's a drag.
Oh, it's like, no, great. Now you're going to make my work feel really awful.
Do they just sit there like arms crossed, like, prove it?
Yeah. But, sometimes those readings turn out to be really awesome. They would come away and say, wow, I have a changed mind about this. Wow. And one of the situations I wrote about in my book, Tarot No Questions Asked, I had a guy come into my office. His sister brought him in. And, or his sister told him about me. He made an appointment. And the guy's sitting in there, and I'm doing this reading, blah, 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 just saying whatever I see. And then after I'm done, he goes, well, how do I know that you didn't just Google me? Oh. And I said to him, when you booked your appointment, I only took your first name. So how would have that happened?
Yeah.
because that's the way I did things back then. And this guy was like, oh my God. And so he ended up becoming like a huge, massive fan.
No.
And, got readings regularly. So sometimes it does happen like that.
Yeah.
That's
But
awesome.
other times people are so close-minded. And when you have someone like that who doesn't believe, who's being there against their will, or they're there to prove something, it makes my job suck. And I don't like that. And I'd rather have you just take your money, go do something fun with that money.
Yeah.
Don't make
Go
me
to a
miserable.
sports
It's
game.
not worth it. Yeah, go to a sports game. Because for me, it's not worth it. If I'm not doing work that feels good, that I love, if people are not jamming with me, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Not here to prove anything.
Not into it. Not here for that.
I've heard, and I wonder sometimes if some of the, there's always been like astrology stuff in, like the newspaper and stuff, which is, you're not going to get a lot out of 2 sentences.
Like a horoscope?
Yeah, horoscope. But I what was I listening to recently? I guess like astrology was a big deal, and esoteric sciences in general was kind of a big deal in the Reagan administration. But I think that occurred during or adjacent to like some of the satanic panic that was going on too, and they had to deny all of it. I just always wonder how much that led toward the current feelings towards the esoteric in general. That's all trash. I'm not really explaining that very well.
No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
There's always been people who've been trying to disprove it.
Yeah.
I mean, the Amazing Randy was this guy that came out and offered, all this money to anybody that could prove him wrong, to prove that psychic stuff, doesn't exist. There's always been skeptics. There's always been people who view it also as, somehow against their religion. And I remember the Satanic Panic very well, too. The Satanic Panic did a tremendous amount of damage to people's lives. It ruined lives.
Yeah.
And I remember back in the day, too, when all that stuff was going on, I read that book, Michelle Remembers, and I was very young when that book came out. And that's what really ignited the Satanic Panic.
Right.
And I read it, I'm like, this book is, talk about bogus, first of all. You're talking about astrology being bogus. And this woman is telling this fantastical story. And where's the proof? There is no way this kind of stuff could happen without a shred of proof. Mm-hmm. So that is my own little skeptical scientific side. And I thought it was really interesting that people could believe that, or they could believe in these other mystical beings in the sky, but you're going to have an attitude about this. How do you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I like to keep an open mind about a lot of things except the Satanic Panic and that stupid book.
Yeah.
And I always say I'm nice to all the gods just in case.
Yeah.
You never know.
Right. Yeah.
I'm super, super open-minded. I'm open-minded about a lot of things, a lot of different divination systems and different ways people approach it. I try not to be really judgy. And I think that if we can all be a little bit more open-minded about other people's belief systems, even people who don't believe in what we believe in, you know what? We're all going to get along a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just talking to my father-in-law last night about how for some of the people with very staunch belief systems, how their box of what's acceptable is just so small.
Yeah.
And, in my opinion, it's not worth getting like too upset or mad about it all, because you just got to let them do their thing and you do your thing. But yeah, like you said, like pushing it's not going to do any good. Letting them
doesn't do any good.
Yeah.
And trying to convince a skeptic, you're wasting your energy and time.
Yeah.
And you've got better things to be doing with your energy and time, like learning more about tarot and astrology, or reading for people who are into it, or maybe developing your highest good. There's so many things we could be doing.
Right.
Why do you want to waste your time arguing? Now, when I was younger, I would, get into it with people occasionally. But now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, God, no. But also, when I was younger, the really interesting thing is I read tarot for 10 years before I went professionally. Nowadays, everybody's monetizing their hobby, which that's a whole nother story. But I read for 10 years, and I did not know that there were so many people that had this feeling, because remember, I'm in this bubble. My parents don't care.
Yeah.
I'm studying the stuff and reading to whoever. But when I started reading for the public, all of a sudden I would encounter people that would make the sign of the cross when they saw me. Or they would tell me, oh, that's devilish. I can't touch that. I was like, what? Where are you getting this from? I thought it was bizarre. It kind of blew my mind.
Yeah.
And I remember, too, because I was a very young reader, I remember it kind of hurt my feelings back then. I'm like, I'm not doing anything negative here. This stuff can help you.
Yeah.
And that was really, really hard. And there's some of that stigma still out there. It's gotten better thanks to the internet. But the internet, though, has also produced other problems with this stuff. There are people who decide that they're going to read one book and now suddenly they need to go out there and start making money doing tarot readings. And they're causing real harm to people because they don't understand, the responsibility that comes with being a reader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are coming to you in very vulnerable situations and you need to know how to handle that. It's almost like being
you need to be ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. They're like somebody who's in like a kind of tough situation with like a relationship or their job or whatever. And they're like looking for answers. That is a heavy burden.
Yeah. It's almost, way. You're like, it's almost like being a therapist. Almost like in like your responsibility for someone else's feelings, you can really mess somebody up.
Yeah.
I mean, you're being like a quasi therapist, although tarot should never take the place of a therapist.
Of course.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like a priest. You're hearing a lot of people's confessions that they're not comfortable telling anybody else. And I mean, I've seen some very irresponsible readers over the years, and I've had to clean up some massive damage from some of these readings. And I think this is the thing, too, that we have to think about. Some folks say, oh, this is just entertainment. It's like, listen, people are coming to you with some real heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Like you said, like maybe a relationship stuff. And we've got to really choose our words with grace and wisdom and compassion, and you can still tell it like it is and be honest without being a jerk about it. I see readers out there, too, who pride themselves on, I just tell it like it is. And when I was younger, I was one of those readers, too, because I didn't realize this could actually cause harm.
Right.
And some of those readers are out there and they are really, really messing people's stuff up.
Yeah.
That makes
sense. Don't be that reader.
Don't be that reader. I feel like not giving finite answers to someone, that's part of it too. Like I know we've mentioned Elliot Oracle and he's always like, you have choices for one. Two, you can take the fear out of like, oh, this is a terrible card. Like, media and like movies have really made tarot look scary. And there's a movie coming out called Tarot, right?
Oh, it's a horror film.
Yeah.
It looks dumb.
Yeah.
But also, there's a lot of people on social media who are promoting these ideas. Now, as someone who's been a long time reader, the cards are not good or bad. They're neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with your astrology chart. I have an astrology chart that I've had astrologers look at it and they're just like, oh my God, this is a terrible astrology chart.
What?
Oh, yeah. Because, they're not keeping in mind that there is some things in life that, yes, could be fated. It could be challenging, but we always have agency.
Yeah.
You can show up as the best version of yourself or the worst version.
Right.
And tarot and astrology can show you, here's how you can work with the energy you have. Here's how you can work with this situation. And that's very empowering. It's same like divination. Now, divination gets a bad rap. And it gets a bad rap around tarot people, believe it or not. There is an anti-divination bias that crops up every so often where somebody will say it should only be used for self-reflection. Tarot should only be used, for like therapeutic type stuff. And that's not true. Tarot divination does play a very important role in empowering people. Because some of these people who have this anti-divination bias think that if you know the future, that first of all, that no one can know the future. And if you know it, that's really harmful and blah. And it's like, listen, if you're driving down the road and you're speeding and driving like a maniac, which some of us do sometimes, and all of a sudden you see another car coming towards you and they blink their lights. We all know what that means. It means, hey, if it's at night, maybe you need to turn your lights on.
Yeah.
Or maybe it means there's a speed trap up ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we know we have a choice. I can continue driving like a maniac, or I can slow down and be a little bit more careful, and maybe I might avoid that ticket.
Right.
That's how divination works. When a tarot reader looks and says, this is where this is headed, if you don't like the outcome and you see where something is headed, you can change that. One of the examples I love using is I had a woman once who sat at my table and I said, wow, I see a lot of car trouble around you. She goes, I got a brand new car. That's so wrong. Oh. And I said, well, I can be wrong. I'm okay with that. I can be wrong. I'm not one of those people that feels like I have to make a god out of being right.
Yeah.
Well, I ended up seeing her a couple weeks later. She goes, "You were right about my car." I said, "Well, what happened?" She said, "Well, I got drunk and I crashed it into a tree."
Oh my God.
No.
Now, let me tell you something. If I would have gotten a reading about car trouble and I got a brand new car,
Don't drink.
and if I would have gotten that reading, the last thing I'd be doing is doing something that irresponsible.
Yeah.
And so that's, again, another thing about theory. We can talk about theory. We get an idea of what that means. But then later on, we see how it actually works out. It's like, shoot, I could have avoided that.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you dabble in any other types of divination aside from tarot?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a nice selection of pendulums that I like playing around with. I love numerology. I love it. I think numerology is really brilliant. So, and once in a while I dabble in this human design thing, which I kind of have mixed feelings about, probably because I just don't know enough about it. I like also mixing different tarot decks and oracle cards. So I like keeping an open mind. But there are certain things I don't know. Tea leaves, that's not my forte.
Yeah.
I'm never going to get that.
I always feel like tea leaves is just Harry Potter for me. Like,
it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
I said, I don't have an imagination for this, I also have, because I, again, grew up with this very intuitive background, I always see a lot of things as signs.
Yeah.
And so I do a lot of what I would say divination without any tools. Like I will see signs. Sometimes my husband says, "You read too much into things." I'm like, no, everything is a sign.
Yeah.
And I pay very close attention. I pay attention to my dreams, my feelings. Sometimes a song comes on the radio and a certain lyric will hit me and I'm like, oh, that's what that means. So I do a lot of that kind of divination.
That's cool.
A lot.
Can you explain numerology a little bit? Because all I see is like 444 or like a couple repeated numbers and people talk about it, but I don't really get it.
Well, numerology is the spiritual science of numbers. And numerologists believe that every number has a vibration and that those numbers, whether they're showing up in repeating patterns or whatnot, are carrying like a message. Now, if they're showing up in repeating patterns like 1111, 444, those are considered angel numbers. It could be you have a specific angel delivering a message to you. And that's all well and good. But the way I use numerology is I'm very practical, so I'm boring. I love studying birth path. And the birth path is you take your number, your date of birth, and you add it up. And then you reduce those numbers until you get it down to like something from 1 to 9, 11, 22, or 33. And so all of those numbers carry, again, a vibration. And they can tell you a lot about what your life path might be like. And you can also find out your universal year number. You can find out the universal year, and you can also find out your personal year. So your personal year, you would take your day and the month that you're born and add it to the current year. And then once again, you reduce that, and now you've got a number that's going to give you the vibration for the year. Now, if you want to get real fancy, you can also compare that to tarot cards. And then it gets really interesting because all the cards are numbered.
Right.
And the major arcana are also associated with these life paths. So, for example, my life path adds up to 11. 11 can be reduced to 2. So I have a choice. I can go with 11, which is considered a master number, or I can go with 2, which is a little bit more like easier to handle. So 11 path people are here to do something spiritual. And no surprise about the type of work that I do.
Yeah.
And they are people who end up being in the limelight in some way, whether they like it or not. And I'm an introvert and I'm in the limelight and I don't like it, but it's meant to be.
Yeah.
If I reduce it to 2, then the theme of my life is going to be about my relationships. I'm here to work on relationships, get along with people, learn about diplomacy. There might be a lot of themes that come through the relationships in my life. So I have a choice. I can work with that energy. Now, if I look at my yearly number, I am currently in, what number is it? Off the top of my head, hold on, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16. I'm in a 7 year, which is really good for introspection, looking within, doing all of that stuff. It's good for student, and I'm taking classes right now, so it makes sense. So you can add these numbers up, and they can also give you guidance about your year and about your path. And I think that's pretty nifty.
Yeah.
I like trying, listen, I'm nice to all the gods, but I'm also nice to all the divination systems, just in case.
Yeah.
I can use, listen, whatever tools I can use to make my life better, I'm going to try it. Whether that means it's numerology, tarot, astrology, working out at the gym, whatever it is, I'm here to improve myself, be the best version of me.
Yeah.
So why not try everything you possibly can?
That's cool. I'm going to do my birth year and birthday.
It's fascinating when you find out your path and stuff. I had a numerologist many years ago, and this is one of the big regrets of my life. This guy was so good. Chris Pierce, RIP, buddy. And he was so good. I've never had a numerology reading like that before or since. And this guy said, I'm going to teach you this. And I said, okay, great. And then we just never had time to do it. And then he died.
Oh, man.
And I regret it because this guy blew me away. The things he was able to say and see in numbers.
Wow.
That's
it's so cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That feels like such a specific skill that like I know I've seen people do that kind of thing before, and I'm always just like, where are you getting this from? But when someone like knows how to tap into it, it's so cool.
Yeah. Question. Do you, since you know astrology so well, how quickly are you able to know what someone's like birth sign is?
Oh, I don't like to try to guess someone's birth sign because astrology is more complex than that. An astrology chart is, most people are familiar with their sun sign. That's the thing you see in the horoscopes.
Right.
Like I'm a Gemini, for example, and I've got a lot of very Gemini qualities. But at the day and time you're born, all the other planets are lining up into different signs. And so that adds a lot of complexity. And also the time you're born is your ascendant. That is the image that you are presenting to the world. So I don't usually try to guess because it isn't quite that simple. Now, I had a friend once back in the day who was a triple Scorpio. That means his sun, moon, and rising were all Scorpio. This was the most Scorpio person I've ever met in my life. If anybody embodied those characteristics, he was a walking Scorpio. He was the most psychic person I know. He was the best tarot reader that I've ever met in my entire life. And all the super dark Scorpio things bled through him.
Yeah.
He could not pretend to be another sign if he tried. That's rare.
Yeah.
That's rare. Unless you are like, sometimes people will have like a buildup of one sign, so it really shows. But most of us, again, don't. So, for example, for myself, I'm a Gemini, I'm a Libra ascendant, I have a moon in Scorpio. And the interesting thing, when most people try to guess my sign, they always guess a fire sign. I don't have any fire elements in my chart.
Oh, wow.
None. So here's why they guess I'm a fire sign. When people are missing an element, oftentimes they overcompensate and it really shows.
Oh.
So that's why you've got to look at the whole chart.
Yeah.
You can't just guess. But if you know your sun, your moon, and your ascendant, that is going to tell you a lot about yourself. For some people, that's all you need to do a pretty comprehensive astrology reading.
For someone who isn't super, good at like assembling a chart or anything like that, what's the daily approachable practice that someone can use that is like maybe the most impactful?
Well, the most impactful, first of all, is to just look at what's happening with the moon.
Oh.
The moon is always changing every 2.5 days, and all of the moon cycles, whatever sign they're in, carry a vibration. So I live by the moon totally. The moon is great for business, by the way. So when you follow the moon, like, whatever the sign the moon is in, it's going to tell you a lot about the energy. So when it's in Aries, the energy can be very exciting. It's a time to start new things, get moving, move your body. It can also be a day where there's a lot of volatile energy out there. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention so you don't get yourself in a stupid situation. Now, 2 days later, it goes into Taurus. Taurus, now things slow down a little bit. It is going to be a good time for touching grass, for eating comfort food, for, putting your feet up, making art. The shadow side could be stubbornness. You might find that other people around you are getting an attitude, or maybe you're getting an attitude. So if you follow the moon, that's a really easy thing for people to do. And you can follow it super easily. Like, for example, on my phone, this is one of the wonderful things about astrology in the modern world. We used to have to do this all by hand.
Yeah.
But now you can just whip out I'm going to do it right now. You can whip out your program, and I have this program called Time Passages. And it shows you the current chart. It shows right now the sun is in Taurus and the moon is in Aquarius. So we're in Taurus season. Taurus season is the perfect time. Stop and smell the roses. Moon in Aquarius, that means it's a good time to do technology things like record a podcast.
Hey.
It is also a good day to connect with friends, to network. The moon in Aquarius is good for, getting involved in social justice. So if you follow just that, you're already living by astrology.
I've not heard that before.
Yeah, I haven't either.
So what's the advice then? Do you check the moon and then you kind of ride the wave of what the moon's pushing already?
I work with it. I lean into it.
Yeah.
I like to say it like this. Salmon will swim upstream to mate, but then they get up there and they die. We don't want to be that.
Yeah.
We want to move with the current. And so it's all about the current. So I know today it's like, okay, let me get this technology stuff handled today. Today is going to be maybe a good day for networking and whatnot. But also I know that there's some volatile energy. So this is not the day where I'm going to get out there and be doing something stupid.
Yeah.
Because some of the planets are not being very cooperative today. So I'm going to stay out of that. I'm like, okay, stay offline. You don't need to be out there arguing with everybody about this opinion or that opinion, which you shouldn't do anyways. Right. It's a waste of energy. Yeah. But today, what's happening, because, I check my planets, just if I had to do it in a nutshell, we have Venus. Venus is in a very unhappy aspect with Pluto this morning, and that's going to linger around for about 2 days. And it's just it's volatile personal power dynamics. And so, if my husband cops an attitude, I'm just going to ignore him.
Which, let's be honest, that's good advice on every day.
Right. But when you pay attention to energy, it's like you can manage things a lot better. And it sounds very simplistic and very stupid, but people have been following astrology and the planets for a long, long time. It used to be respected and regarded as again, one of the sciences.
Right.
So I am one that says, let me just live with this. And it's funny because I love to tempt fate once in a while. I really do. I like to do things like, oh, Mercury's retrograde. Let me go book a trip and see what happens.
Yeah.
I'll do that sometimes. Yeah. And, sometimes, things then it's like, okay, well, maybe I should have been a little more careful here.
Yeah.
But in general, I found that when I really started working and living with this energy, my life just got a lot better.
That's really
a lot better.
I think you might have just changed my morning routine.
Yeah, Frank's going to be checking your new app.
Yeah, I'm excited to get on that.
Yeah.
Time Passages is my favorite. There are other apps, but I find that it's really accurate, and it also gives you some interpretation. So if you're a budding astrologer, if you show an interest, it's going to tell you a little bit about what's going on there. It's also fun to look up other people's charts because I'm a believer. Now, you'll hear things like these books on compatibility. I'm like, don't listen to those compatibility books.
Yeah.
Because I believe when you understand somebody else's astrological makeup, now you know what they're all about. So you know how to interact with this person.
Right.
And some of the examples that I like to give for that is when my daughter was born. I planned my daughter by astrology, and she always hates this story. And so I planned her by astrology, and if she would have came on the day she was due, it would have been like the perfect child for me.
Yeah.
Of course, she came 3 weeks early, so my master plan got destroyed. But I really wanted a Leo, and she just made Leo. And I remember after she was born and they whisked her away, of course, the first thing I did was her astrology chart.
Yes.
And I looked at this chart, and I'm like, oh my God, this child's chart is so hard. I'm going to have a hard time with this kid. And, so that was my belief. But then I'm like, well, wait a minute. This is what she needs. This is how she's going to interact with things. This is where you're going to have trouble. So let's use that as like a little manual.
Oh, okay.
And, so I did. And when I had my son his chart was very different than hers. His chart was real easy for me. I'm like, good. And my mother used to get really mad at me because she would say, you are raising them with two very different set of standards. You're hard on her and you're easy on him. Huh. And I said, I know what I'm doing. They're two different individuals. I can't raise them the same.
Yeah.
And so my kids now are middle-aged, and we are incredibly close. My son bought a house around the corner from me. My daughter was 5 minutes away. We hang together all the time. We are so tight and close.
So cool.
That's nice.
And my daughter and I, every once in a while, we have our moments.
Sure.
Yeah.
Where we're going to knock some heads, and we both know because she understands my chart too. Okay, we're going to take a breather. We're going to come back at it. We're going to practice some good communication here. So once you understand someone's chart, you can get along with them. And compatibility, again, I think that I'd like to blow a lot of holes into that.
Yeah.
My first husband, I always like to say, notice the words I'm using, first husband. We had incredibly compatible charts. People are like, oh my God, you're so compatible. But what they didn't take into account was our lack of maturity, our very different backgrounds, and also our political belief system was very different. And so the relationship blew up after a couple of years. Now, my current husband and I have very uncompatible charts, according to traditional astrologers. We've been together 30 years. We get along like a house on fire. In the 30 years that we've been together, we've probably fought for a total of 1 hour.
Oh my gosh.
Why? Because we understand each other's makeup.
Yeah.
We get each other and we know. I mean, one thing he knows about me, I need a lot of space, and he doesn't take it like that's a bad thing. He gets it. I'm like, look, I'm in my head right now. Leave me alone for a while.
Yeah.
And some people don't get that. My first husband didn't understand that. So we have no problems, and we have these uncompatible charts. You don't need to have compatible charts. You need to have an understanding, and you have to ask yourself, is this a relationship that I really want to work on? Great, that I'm going to respect this person's makeup and bring out the best in them, and vice versa. If it's a relationship that maybe you don't care about preserving, but you have to deal with that person, like let's say a boss, well, now you know, okay, well, the boss is this way. Let me at least go in there and do my job and not have any drama at work. And then there's some people you might look at and you might say, I don't even care to get along with them, but I can at least be decent.
Yeah.
And I just don't have to have interactions with them. But at least I know if I'm going to be stuck with them for anything like, the terrible uncle at a wedding, I can try to be civil.
Right.
Yeah.
So why not learn this stuff? If you learn this stuff, your relationships will get better.
That's really cool. Would you advocate? I know a lot of in corporate environments, they love to do the Myers-Briggs test and stuff like that, which I know is based in, I think, like loosely Carl Jung study.
Yeah.
But what about astrology charts to understand each other?
I think astrology charts are great because if you understand, first of all, if you understand someone that you're hiring, you can look at their nature. Let's say you really love them, they have all the skills, but you might see things in there that say, like, for example, well, this person's a Sagittarius and they've got this Aquarius moon and they've got this Leo ascendant. This is a gregarious person. I'm not putting them in the back room working alone. I'm going to make sure they are out there where they're connecting with people. Maybe they're going to be front of desk. Maybe I'm going to help them develop their salesman side. You can make sure that you're putting people in places where they're happy. And also, if you understand the makeup of your team, like let's say, for example, you have somebody that's working for you and they've got a moon in Cancer. Okay, I know they're going to be sensitive. So if I have to do the review and critique them, I'm going to be very mindful that this is a sensitive person who might take it very personally. So now I'm going to make sure that I offer constructive, kind criticism. Whereas if it's a moon in Virgo, I know I can tell them whatever. They want to be criticized. They want to be perfect. So you can lay it on the line with them and you can give a different type of review.
That's really cool.
Wouldn't that be
nice?
If everyone followed the charts.
Let me ask you this. I've sometimes wondered about people who know only a dangerous amount of their astrology, enough to kind of fight against it.
What do you mean by fighting against it?
I don't know, like people who don't want to be a certain way, but are naturally. Instead of like, we're talking about like checking out what the moon's doing and riding that wave. I've met people who like are clearly trying to be something they're not.
Oh,
I guess would the advice be don't do that?
The advice is to understand yourself as deeply as possible.
Yeah.
Understand yourself and understand and learn to love yourself as you are. I mean, look, I got this quote unquote terrible astrology chart. I roll my eyes at that.
Yeah.
But what I've done with the chart isn't try to be somebody that I'm not. I'm going to be the best version of me.
Sure.
It's like, okay, you've got this strength here. Let's lean into that. You've got this so-called terrible moon. And that moon, let me figure out how to work with this. I mean, it's really all about, let me figure this out so I can, again, be the best version of me, not to be some inauthentic version of me. I never, ever want to be anything but myself.
Right.
But I don't want to be a broken version of me. I don't want to look at the negative stuff and feel, well, it looks like I got to be a negative person now.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't work like that. And if somebody's telling you that it works like that, they're not doing it right. And if you feel like, I'm just going to fight this, or I'm going to be a stereotype, I mean, that's not good either. It's like, learn the energy and then figure out the high vibe and the low vibe, and let's work with the high vibe.
This is helpful because my dad is very into astrology. So he did charts for our kids when they were first born. And I remember reading our sons, and I was like, oh, I don't want to
you don't want to pigeonhole him.
Yeah. I read some of it and I was like, wait, I'm going to stop reading it so that I'm not just assuming that he is going to be this way. But now maybe I should read it and our daughters too. Let me see how I can parent them, differently, or
it's all about
understand them. Yeah.
Yeah. Guiding and supporting. Again, let's talk about my children. For children, one of the things I recommend is you look at their moon. The moon tells what they need emotionally. And the moon your moon tells you what kind of a parent you might be. Now, when we look at those moons, we're going to get some understanding how we're going to be dealing with each other. Now, before I give an example of my children, so my mother, my sister, and I all have fixed moons. And the dynamic was always tense, but it's especially between my mother and my sister. And I would sit back and watch these two go at it, and it was really, really negative.
Wow.
And that left a lot of scars particularly for my sister as she got older. And so when my daughter was born, my daughter got the final fixed moon. So all 4 of the women in the family have these really intense fixed moons. And my niece, the only other female, has the same moon as me. So here we have all of these women where there could be a lot of tension. Mm. But like I said with my daughter, first of all, I watched my mother and my sister. I'm like, oh, no, that's not going to be here. We're breaking that wheel.
Yeah.
And so understanding what my daughter needed. What did my daughter need? Structure. My daughter needs structure. She needs to feel safe. She needs security. She's got that moon in Taurus. She needs to feel like she can depend on me, like I'm reliable. I'm not her competition. I'm here to really support whatever she's doing. And I need to also, as a parent, understand she's going to be a very stubborn child, but I'm stubborn too. So we have to learn how to meet in the middle because our moons oppose each other. Now my son, moon in Gemini, easy breezy, loves to talk it out, needs to talk it out. But one of the things for him, there's a tendency I know from his chart is to always put others first, to be what I used to call the good guy. Mm. And so he would do stuff and I would say, are you being the good guy or is this what you really want? I had to really work with him.
That's a great question.
That's a good question.
I love that.
Yeah. Because for example, I'd be like, okay, kids, what do you want to do? Do you want to go get ice cream or what do you want to do? Whatever you want to do, Mom. No.
Oh.
What do you really want to do?
Yeah.
Well, I want to get the ice cream. Okay, well, we're going to get the ice cream.
Nice.
So that's the thing I realized that he is going to he needs to talk it out, but sometimes what he's going to do is he's going to gloss things over to keep the peace.
Sure.
And I had to really encourage him. You don't have to keep the peace. It's okay to want what you want and to express that. Oh, so this is really super helpful.
Yeah.
And again, both of my children have very different needs. He needs to talk it out. He needs to be able to express and verbalize what he needs. Otherwise, he doesn't get those needs met.
Right. Yeah.
She's got no trouble expressing what she needs.
Yeah. Your daughter sounds like our daughter. So
yeah, you're doing fine. You're getting your needs met just fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Our daughter's, my dad says our daughter's a double Capricorn, which I'm like, I don't quite know what that means, but
we got to be looking at moons here. We got to
look at all three and understand.
Yeah. If she's a double Capricorn, she might have a sun and moon in Capricorn, and that means she's going to be very serious. And I would say as a parent, make her lighten up. Capricorns have brilliant senses of humor. And one of the things is a lot of Capricorn children are very adult at a very early age because they're very serious. And it's very easy then for parents to say, oh my God, they're such a good kid. And then we parentify them. So I would be saying, okay, and I've got a grandbaby as a Capricorn. Let them play, let them make a mess, let them be a kid. Remind them that everything's not so serious. Lighten up and have fun, because we don't want them going through life so serious so young.
Yeah.
Lighten up.
They're a lot of jokes around here. So
yeah, double Capricorns are usually pretty good kids. They're kind of set in their ways.
Yeah.
But generally, they're pretty good kids.
She's a good kid, but she is a Capricorn.
I love Capricorns.
So you have a lot of books. What are you working on right now?
Well, right now I cannot say, because I'm in the middle of putting together the proposal.
Ooh,
okay.
And that's all I'm going to say about it, because that has to get accepted, et cetera, et cetera. And I've got actually a list of different ideas and things I want to work on.
Yeah.
So I know I'm going to be doing a lot of writing into the future. That's where I've been really going with my career. I went away from reading for the public and into writing the books and teaching.
Yeah.
Because now it's like I'm going to retire in just a few years from everything. So I'm trying to teach as many people as I can and spread information, so that way I can leave some sort of a legacy before I ride off into the sunset. So, I've written, I think, 8 books, and I've written for 2 tarot decks. So I've done a lot of writing in the last couple of years.
Nice.
That's so cool.
But yeah, so I've got something up my sleeve, but I can't talk about it yet.
That's fine. But when you're ready, let us know. Send us an email. We'll tell the listeners.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to pitch right now? Any links you want to share?
Yeah, sure. If people are interested in getting a daily card of the day with a daily astrology tidbit, and taking classes with me, and also getting my political astrology, which is one of my other passions, then they might want to check out my Patreon account, and that's patreon.com/the Tarot Lady. That'll be going again until I retire. And I would also recommend they check out my latest book called The Cards You're Dealt: How to Deal When Life Gets Real, a tarot guidebook. It is a tarot book for all levels, but it's really teaching you how to read tarot when you're going through some really heavy stuff for yourself. But also there's a lot of professional advice so that you can give readings for people who are going through heavy stuff and not cause harm.
Nice.
Ooh, okay.
That seems very useful.
Yeah.
It's very needed.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that a lot of people do when they go through a tarot certification or whatnot, they learn everything the cards mean, but they don't learn what you do when somebody's in your office and they're freaking out.
Yeah.
Or when they're going through something heavy that you have no life experience in. And so this book aims to help people with that.
That's fantastic.
Oh, that's awesome.
Very cool. Well, Theresa, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah. This was so cool.
Yeah, and you are so prolific. I have a lot of material to dig through now. So.
I know. Yeah.
Thank you for all your work.
Time to open some books from Theresa.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for having me here. It's been a pleasure and a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
I think we will.
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
not done here.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Take care.
All right. Bye, Theresa.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Visit www.clairvoyaging.com for show notes, merch, or just to say hi. If you'd like to support our journey, visit www.buymeacoffee.com/clairvoyaging. This has been a production of Wayfeather Media.